It's November, which means Mark Dawson's self-publishing Launchpad course is open for enrollment once again. I always like to make a video about my experiences with this course and how it affected the trajectory of my writing career. And if that is something you're interested about, if you want to know whether this course is worth the money, then I will be able to tell you, so stay tuned. Hi guys, it's me, and once again, Mark Dawson's self-publishing Launchpad course is open for enrollment. And if you're watching this video, that's probably what you came here for. You're probably a self-published author or an author considering self-publishing, and you want to know whether his course is right for you and whether it will help you become more successful as an author. And, well, what can I say? I took the course myself in 2015. When it was both courses that Mark Dawson has, the ads for authors and the Launchpad, squished into one. And the great thing is, when you buy that course, you get lifetime enrollment to it. So I've been able to go back in every single year, see what's been updated, see what's changed, and then be able to make a video and give my opinions on that. But the real question is, does Mark Dawson's Launchpad course work? Will it help you sell more books? And I can only speak from personal experience, but I've wanted to be a writer since I was 9 years old, hammering away on my mother's IBM electric typewriter. I think I wrote my first quote-unquote book when I was 13, and I've been writing ever since. And I got hundreds of rejection slips from publishers. Nobody was interested in publishing my stories through the traditional method. But then Amazon came around, and Amazon offered self-publishing on the Kindle. And I delayed for years doing it. But in 2013, I started publishing some saucy short stories that I've been writing, which I had actually, some of them I got published. I even got one published in First check I ever got for writing something was Hustler Fantasies magazine, and I wrote this little short story, and so I started publishing those, and people started buying them, and I was like, wow, there might be something here. And so I started this crusade of being a self-published author, and I was not initially very successful. I took Mark Dawson's course in 2015 though, and I realized that the reason I hadn't been successful is because I didn't know what I was doing. I was a self-published author, so I was like, oh, I can write books and I can press all the buttons to make them available on Amazon, but how do I make them successful? And that's what it all comes down to. It's what I realized, and it's a philosophy I espouse in every video I make about writing. Anybody can be a successful self-published author. You just need to learn the craft of writing. That's something that could take a lifetime. But you need to also follow the process for successful self-publishing. And that's the amazing thing. Because when it comes down to it, success as an author, it's not luck, and it's not talent, and it's certainly not privilege. What it is knowing what you're doing. Being a successful self-published author is an achievable goal, and it is a business model. That's really the big thing. You write books, and you write books that people want to read, and then you follow the business model to market them and promote them and sell them. And that's what Mark Dawson's Launchpad is. It's basically a business model in a box, except there's no box. It's all esoteric, tangential digital media these days. But that's basically what it is. He teaches you in this self-publishing Launchpad course how to be a self-published author as a business. So he's not able to tell you how to write books that are going to appeal to people and make them want to buy them, but he is going to teach you how to put the books that you write in front of the people who are likely to buy them and do that for you. And the question is, does it work? Well, I know that it does, because on Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th of July, 2018, I made, for the first time in my entire career as a writer, enough money to live on. And from that point onwards, for months afterwards, I continued to make that much money or more. My entire life changed on Friday the 13th of July, 2018, when I went from somebody who had dreams of being a writer to, holy shit, I'm a writer. This is a job. This is a career. This is something I can use to pay my mortgage and support my family. And it all came about thanks to the fact that I had in place a business model that could leverage success when I wrote a book that was good enough. And that's the thing. So I'd written and self-published 11 books at that point. I mean, to be honest, hundreds of short stories, but I'd started writing full-length books, and I had published 11 of them. And I had slowly seen my success as an author creep up and stuff like that. But there was one day when I published this book, which was the 4th of July 2018, so only like a couple of weeks earlier. I published this book, and I somehow managed to like catch lightning in a bottle, because people really loved this book. And because I had launched it using the business model that is outlined in Mark Dawson's Launchpad course, I was suddenly watching hundreds of digital copies of this book fly off the bookshelves every single day. My first year of publishing this book, it made $30,000, which was amazing. It changed my life completely. I was suddenly like, holy shit, I can write books that people want to buy, and I can put them in front of the people who want to buy them. And it's like, insert advertising money, insert marketing money, insert time to write the book, receive profit. And I went on to repeat that experiment with another book that I published like 3 months later that was also massively successful. And my career as a writer continued like that. As long as I can continue writing books that appeal to people, then I just become more and more successful as an author. And it's because of this process, this business model that I was taught through Mark Dawson's Launchpad course. And just to put into perspective, okay, what I mean by like life-changing and things like this, as an author, up to the point before I published that book, the most I was able to make in a single day, like sustainably, was $50. This is the book I've written beforehand called No Way Out, which I love. It's the first book in my biker series. And at that point, this book was chugging along, and I was earning $50 per day from it. And I was pretty damn proud of myself. I was like, look at that. All I need to do is write 6 more of these, and I'll have a sustainable career. And what happened was, I wrote one more book in that series, and then that $50 a day became $500 a day. It started off at $300. My goal has always been like $300 a day. But at its peak, in the first month this book was released, my best was $615 in book sales in a single day. And that's what I call life-changing. That's just changed everything for me. And in some ways, it was a curse as well as a blessing, because suddenly you got that pressure of like, I could do this as a career. But you have to, if you want to do this as a career, be able to write books that people want and continue writing and publishing books that people want. It is not an easy career by any means, but it's a calling. It's like, if you're a writer and you're serious about it, it's a calling. You would write anyway, even if you weren't getting paid for it. I certainly did. Since I was 9 years old, I've been writing, and yeah, okay, I got a check for $25 from Hustler Fantasies for a dirty story I had published then. But for the most part, I was writing full-length novels and not really getting paid, just because I had this obsessive need to write. And then, because of Mark Dawson's Launchpad course, it was called Self-Publishing 101 back then, I was going to say. But because of that course, I was able to turn this passion, this obsession of mine, into something that you can form a career of, that you can make a life from. And that's really the amazing thing. And it comes down to the fact that, yeah, there is a process. It's a process that publishers use. And I should have known that. My family's been in publishing for 4 generations. But yeah, you get a good idea for a book. You get a stellar cover for it. You get a great blurb for it. You put it up on your Amazon page. That's all fine. But there's more to it than that. There is building up a subscriber list. So the stuff you have in your books that, you where people can join your subscriber list, where you're giving out copies of your books, where you're announcing your books, how you're launching your books, whether you have a pre-sale on your book so people can kind of like buy it prior to release day, and then it gets a big burst when it comes out. All of these things are incredibly tactical. But if you know them, then what happens is when you write that book that's good enough, everything is in place and it suddenly becomes a machine. Um, yeah, that's really what Mark Dawson's course teaches you. It's the black and white. Like, hey, you've got your book. Here's how you put your cover up. This is what your cover needs to be like. These are your keywords that you put in. This is how you put your description together, and this is how you should come up with a good description for your book, your blurb. This is how you should focus on the look insights. This is how you get reviews for your book. This is how you launch your book. This is how you market that launch. This is how you can build up the momentum of the book and make it successful. And if you don't know this process, then you can write this amazing, brilliant book and see it flop and languish in obscurity. But if you do know that process, you can write and self-publish a book that isn't nearly as good as the other one, but make a success of it. And that's it. And I really, truly believe that. And you see examples of it all the time. I'm sorry, Stephanie Meyer's Twilight books, they're not the best written books in the world, but the idea of them, the whole story of like Bella and the vampires and stuff, that resonated with people. She wrote a book that people wanted to buy, and then the process that publishers use helped get it in front of enough people to turn it into this global phenomenon. She's not the best writer in the world, but she is a prodigiously successful writer because she had the business model of successful publishing behind her. And as a self-published author, we have so many advantages over traditional publishing because we can be in charge of everything. And more than that, the stakes to be successful in this business are much, much lower. So if you're a big publisher like Simon and Schuster or something and you publish a book, well, first of all, you've got to pay your author and give him his royalties and his advance, and then you've got to pay an editor, and they're not cheap. You've got to pay a publicist, and they're not cheap. You've got to pay a proofreader, then you've got to pay for advertising and marketing. Then you've got to pay to print thousands of copies of this book and have them shipped out to bookstores everywhere. You've got to pay to send your author on a tour, or at least get him involved in doing blog tours and digital tours and things like that. It is a big, expensive business model. As a self-published author, you don't need to worry about any of that. I mean, I fortunately happen to be an extremely talented graphic designer, so I'm able to design my own covers, and they're good. I mean, look at these. Look at these covers. They're bloody beautiful. And I can make videos and adverts and do all of that stuff myself. I'm also a copywriter. So the authors pay me to write blurbs for their books. So I'm able to write good blurbs for my books. I'm able to do so much stuff that has to get farmed out by a publishing company myself. And then my definition of success is so much lower. Therefore, like a publishing company has to pay 5 people full-time salaries to get this book out. I just have to get the book out and have enough earnings to be able to pay my mortgage. And what does that look like? Well, there's a great writing guru guy called Nick Stevenson, and he's got a series called 10,000 Readers, and that's basically it. If you write a book like this every 3 months, and if you're a serious writer, that is an extremely achievable goal. I struggle to achieve it because I'm also a writer. But if you had 10,000 people who were your fans, your readers, and you guaranteed to buy a copy of this book, every book that you write every 3 months, and you market the digital copy of this book for $3.99, so you get 70% royalties from Amazon, so that's $3. 10,000 readers who all buy a copy of your book and give you $3 each, that's $30,000. And if you earn $30,000 every 3 months, then hey, look at that. That's a comfortable 6-figure salary. And that's it. That's what the business model looks like. You just need to get 10,000 readers. And you have to do work to build up to that point. But what Mark Dawson's Launchpad course teaches you how to do that work and how to build up these fans and these readers, and also how to keep hold of them so they don't forget about you. It is a system a very, very tactical, step-by-step system to be a successful self-published author. And as a successful self-published author, all you need to worry about is making enough money to give yourself a comfortable income, and that's very, very achievable. That's it. It is a very, very achievable goal, and I know because I've achieved it. And who am I? I'm just some bloke. And I love it because I've been now in this writing and self-publishing game for years, and I do consult calls with authors now, and I write blog posts about it and make videos about it. And it means I speak to so many different authors, and I've met so many authors whose lives have changed by becoming successful. There are authors whose careers I've seen develop. There's one wonderful romance novelist called Lillian Munro, and I remember when she was earning less than $1,000 a month, and she and I chatted, and I gave her some advice, and I think it helped to a certain extent. And now she's just prodigiously successful. She's far more successful than I am, and she deserves it because she works bloody hard. And the interesting thing about her is she's an engineer, so she engineered the machine that can make her book successful. And for those of us who aren't engineers and we can't figure it out ourselves because we're not clever like her, there are things like Mark Dawson's Launchpad course, which just teaches you what to do. And yeah, for me, back in 2015, I spent $500 on Mark Dawson's course. And as I said, that course helped me have the machine, the business model in place to make $500 a day from this book. So for me, it's complete no-brainer. It's a no-brainer decision because not only did I spend $500 on this course and then wind up in a situation where I was making that amount of money back every single day, but it's a course that I still have access to. So as things change in the industry, I can also go back in there and see and find new piece of advice. And a really cool thing is, as Mark Dawson's course has grown and exploded and reached more authors, he's got more people to come in and give advice. Like in the Ads for Authors course, he is like a person from Amazon literally come in and explain how to succeed in Amazon advertising based on their experience actually helping authors be successful in Amazon advertising. So there is a ton of material to unpack. And I am just one author who's here saying, yeah, I wouldn't have been successful as an author if it wasn't for taking Mark Dawson's course, the Self-Publishing Launchpad course. However, I'll be honest with you, it's up to you once you buy the course. The course is great. The course is worth the money if you use it. And as I said, I speak to tons of authors all the time. And so many authors I speak to will say, oh yeah, I bought Mark Dawson's course. I haven't gone through it yet. And then like, why are you talking to me about how to be more successful when you literally have everything you need right there in a box? But you have to invest the hours to go through these course materials. And then once you've gone through all of those, you actually have to invest the time to do it with your own books, your own catalogue of books. And that's an investment. And then once you launch books, you're going to have to invest money as well in advertising, promotion, and other things. A decent cover, a decent blurb, editing, proofreading. These things cost money. It's a business. The wonderful thing is, though, that it's a business you can start for very little investment. And it's a business that can give you a remarkable profit margin if you're successful at it. But it is a business, and you have to approach it like a business. And that means you have to study the materials and put what you've studied into practice to be successful. And then the next thing is you have to write a book that people want. And the other people I've spoken to who haven't had success with Mark Dawson's course generally fall into the camp of, listen, I know that you designed that cover yourself and you're really proud of it, or it's a photograph that you really love, but if you look at other books on Amazon, does it look like it belongs alongside them? No, that's why people aren't clicking on it. And your blurb, you're a fantastic writer, but your blurb is like a segment of the story, and that's not what you need. You need a copywriting approach to it, where it hooks somebody and brings them in and poses a question and makes them want to learn more. You need to actually have that in place. And Mark Dawson's course tells you about how to achieve these things. But if you're stubborn and you refuse to actually do that, then you're not going to be successful. And if you're an author who writes books that don't grab people's attention, then you are going to struggle to find success with it. But that's okay, because it depends how dedicated you are to writing. I wrote and self-published 11 full-length books before I had my first bestseller. So if you haven't found success with self-publishing yet, but you've written them fewer than 11 books, I'm like, hey, it's right there. It's right there ahead of you. You just need to keep working. You just need to keep grinding. And then one day, what happened to me will happen to you. That you will go downstairs and you will check your Amazon earnings for the day. And instead of it saying $50, it will say $500. And it literally happens overnight. Check out this graph that I've got there. That was the day that my life changed. My earnings and then my earnings. So that can happen to you. And if you dedicate yourself to it and you follow the steps that are outlined in Mark Dawson's Launchpad course, success is inevitable, really, because you'll keep writing books and self-publishing books and following the process in Mark Dawson's Launchpad, and either you will eventually one day become successful or you'll die. And as long as you keep writing and keep publishing and keep grinding, then the chances are you will achieve a certain level of success before you die. But then you also have to sustain it. And that's the other thing they tell you about. Like, it's a perfect business model. If you want to be a writer, there is this process that you can follow to become a successful, affluent, self-published writer. You got to keep churning books out. You got to keep putting the work in. And it is work. It's a day job. And it's a great day job because as a writer, you can do your day's work in a few hours and do it when you want and how you want, and you've got that flexibility to create a life that you want to live, but you still need to do the work. And if anything, if I've had wobbles in my path as a self-published author, it's because there have been periods in my life when, for whatever reason, I haven't been writing books. Really comes down to that. I can see it on a piece of paper. If I write every single day, then within 3 months, I'll be making an extremely comfortable 6-figure salary. And I say within 3 months, as in you have to publish a book and you get paid by Amazon 60 days after month's end, but it's as simple as that. If I write every single day, within 3 months, I can have a comfortable 6-figure salary. If I don't write every day, then you don't. But what happens is you build on everything. I wrote 11 books and then published my first bestseller, and the next book was a bestseller, and the next book did really well as well. And so you build on that and it builds up. And the other thing you can do, of course, as a self-published author, is start advertising those books. And that's a different business model. To make a sustainable income from the books you've already written is different from making a sustainable income from the books you are writing and publishing. But you can do that, and they work in conjunction. So to be a successful author just means you have to be a successful author. The more successful you are, the more successful you become. And if you stick to it and you stick to the process that gets outlined with Mark Dawson's Self-Publishing Launchpad, it is going to be inevitable. And I know because I have seen it and I have lived it and I have been wildly successful beyond my expectations as an author, thanks to Mark Dawson's Launchpad course, and I still know that I have a long way to go in an upwards trajectory. So, yeah, that's what I can say about Mark Dawson's Launchpad course. If you have found what I've said to you interesting and valuable, and you decide that you want to buy Mark Dawson's course, good on you. Could you do me a favor? Could you use the link down below in the description for this video? Because that is a special affiliate link, which means if you buy the course, I get a little chunk of the change. And I appreciate that. And that's why I make videos like this. I make videos like this because I want to be honest about Mark Dawson's course and try and provide value in when I'm talking about it. And I think this video, I think it's got an interesting perspective on it. But yeah, it's getting a little chunk of the change that inspires me to keep making these videos. But it's always great as well when you hear from authors who did become successful thanks to taking this course, which they took because of a video that I had made about it. And the other thing I'll say, Originally, a few years ago, I thought that Mark Dawson's Launchpad course was missing a few key ingredients, which, to be honest, they've kind of like filled in those holes there. But I actually created a course of my own called "So You've Self-Published a Book on Amazon, Now What?" And if you decide to buy Mark Dawson's course by using the link down below, I will get a notification about that, and then I'll give you free access to my course as well. And I think it's a pretty decent course, and it goes really into how to put together the ingredients for a book that will make it successful. I don't really rehash any of Mark Dawson's materials, and so that means I like to think that Mark Dawson's course and my course work really well together. They're like a shot and a chaser. So yeah, if you decide to buy the course, I'll give you access to my course as well, and with the two of them there, then you are in an extremely, extremely strong position to be successful as a self-published author. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about it. I've rabbited on for 25 minutes now, but hopefully you found that this is useful. If you buy the course, good luck to you. Let me know how you do. Hit that subscribe button. Don't be a stranger. Keep me updated, and I'll be back with another video very soon. Until then, cheerio. I'm Roland Hume. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got the link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.